Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. Tonight I'm going to be working on the Veil comic as usual. For anybody who might have missed it, I posted up an interview with a Nigerian artist, Anthony Azekwa, that's on this channel here. I did the interview because I've been thinking a lot about different ways to kind of get a lot of the questions from the chat answered in a more substantive way. So, like, as opposed to me just kind of saying the same answers over and over again, I was like, I'll probably take a lot of the general questions that I've been hearing a lot and do interviews with people who are pretty much the example of what to do given that situation. So Anthony's situation is that he's in Nigeria. Extremely difficult to work in Nigeria as a digital artist, getting any sort of traction online due to the lack of like payment platforms allowing you to, participate in like PayPal or really anything that you get paid through. Any of like the Redbubble sites or anything that's like a print site, on demand site, like all those things, they make it so like people from Nigeria can't use their platforms. So I thought that would be interesting, just for anybody who's wondering, like, how could I get into art if I, don't have access? It's like, well, there you go. Look at that. There's somebody who has hardly any of the resources that most people have. They still did it. I plan on doing more, targeting specific questions. The next one I'm probably going to go after is a art director interview. We'll see how that goes, because you never know what kind of time these people have. But that's my plan anyway. So as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to tag at Dave Raposa in the chat, and I will answer as I go. Other than that, I'm going to just get rolling on this. See where we end up. Hopefully we make a lot of progress. If you hear my dogs click clacking claws, I got 2 fat dogs in here. I've been playing Helldivers. I wanted to see what all the fuss was about. It's really good. I saw like people talking about how Helldivers is like a big deal for the games industry because of what it means for not being like super AAA and still putting out games that rake in a ton of cash. But just as somebody who's worked in games and all, different games do different things, you know? Not every game can be Helldivers. It's so funny to me when people like put it that way. They're like, this is a wake-up call for the games industry. It's like, yeah, but if you want a story with like voice actors and you like narrative games or anything like that, you know, there's different beasts, costs different amounts. Do I think I'll get around to playing Rebirth? Oh, for sure. I will for sure play Rebirth. I played the demo. Really liked it. I'm actually playing through the remake right now. I never beat that, so I don't know how close I am to the end, but I'm about 8 hours into it. I know it's not super long, so I figured I could just knock it out and then hop into Rebirth. Did someone finally notice indies have been killing it for years now? No, it's more that like the way that my game company I work for, the way that they call themselves is like a triple I game, like, you know, basically indie deluxe, whatever you want to call it. And that's kind of what Helldivers seems to be. I do long for the days when you could have smaller teams working on games and taking more risks. So I do like seeing that trend. Not everything needs to be super high fidelity graphics. I think the game I'm probably most looking forward to in terms of art direction is that new one from the team that did Ori. That like Dark Souls top-down Diablo Path of Exile looking game, but the stylized one. Sort of has like a Darksiders medieval kind of look to it. Got ghosts and goblins vibes, but Dark Souls. That one looks really cool. No Rest for the Wicked. There you go, that one. Yeah, that looked great. I'm only a couple days away from being able to do more comic work, which is nice. I've had to relegate all my comic work to these streams, which hasn't been ideal for me because I want to get more work done on this than I currently am. but my deadlines have been so tight lately that I just had to catch up with all of that. And I was supposed to be done with that deadline last Friday, but they extended it because I asked, I was like, could I have a little bit more time on this? Because it's kind of a crazy crunch. I had started working on a deadline for this thing in November, and the direction of the illustration changed a bunch of times, so it ended up changing enough that it got pushed out all the way to being a March deadline, which is pretty wild. So I wasn't anticipating that. It was nice of them to give me more time. But I like the work a lot. So I got no complaints there, but it means that my comic got pushed out again just by like another week or so. Did I ever check out Hollow Knight? Yeah, absolutely. That's one of those games that has like a great art direction and awesome execution of the whole Metroidvania thing. I never beat it, but I played a decent chunk of it. Whenever I have the next interview lined up, I'll let you all know in the Discord, all the patrons, and I'm going to ask ahead of time if there's any questions that you'd all like to ask the guest. I used to do interviews a lot back in the day. Like over a decade ago, plus some. They used to be a regular thing I did. For anybody who's kind of coming up, if you have a YouTube channel, or if you want to kind of get into that realm, not just for your own sake, like putting out content and whatever, but just because it's so difficult to organically network with people, that an interview is a really nice way of doing that, where you just kind of get to know somebody, and if you get along, then that's great. Probably continues beyond that conversation. But it's just a great way to start talking to people. Did you buy Piotr's recent prints? Mine recently just got here after 3 months. I thought I got lost, but it's so awesome. I did not. I would love to. Hey Dave, do you ride dirt bikes? No, I don't. It'd be cool, but I don't. We'll probably end up getting some for our kids, but I only ever kind of had my friends like dirt bikes and stuff when I was young, and what we had, which I was like embarrassed of at the time when I was little, just because like in my town everybody rode like dirt bikes if they did anything like that, and I had like a moped when I was young. I liked it a lot, but that's what I used to ride around as a kid. And I fucked it up so bad. I remember driving like as fast as it could go. I think it was like 20 20 something miles an hour. Maybe it maxed out at 30. I can't really remember. I was pretty young, and I was riding on these bog roads. If you don't know what a bog is, it's like a giant marsh, and there's like little pathway roads that go between sections of the bog, and I was riding on there, and I didn't notice that a huge chunk, I was just by myself, and I didn't notice that a huge chunk of the road was just gone. So I was going like as fast as it could go, and I just flew off the edge. And my bike just went straight down into a ditch. I managed to like jump across to the other side while I was falling, but I messed that thing up. I like smashed the headlight in. Oh, it was brutal. But that thing was so much fun. I remember the day that like we got it, me and my brother were riding it around. We thought it was like the coolest shit ever. And then my sister wanted to ride it, and me and my brother were just like, ugh. Because every time my sister got on something like that, she'd break it just because she was clumsy. And we just knew it was gonna happen. And we were like, whatever. My dad's like, just let her have a turn on it. And we were like, okay. So we watch her drive down the street going super fast, and she's just far away down the road, and then you just see her go like this and this and this and just flip over. It was so funny. Me and my brother were so mad. Like, you don't ever get to use this. That was the closest thing I had to a dirt bike. I was a skateboarder when I was young. I skateboarded like constantly. Oh yeah. I'll get back to you, Digital Art Cast. I saw your email earlier. But yeah. I really think that stuff's super important, like skateboarding and really like any kind of discipline like that, like self-motivated stuff. I find that was like pretty vital for my growth, especially in terms of like being a freelancer and having all my work be like self-directed. Having that kind of like daily practice, ritual, whatever, routine built into my day, I found that was pretty helpful, getting into like a routine of doing art every day. A similar sort of deal. What was my favorite trick? My favorite trick to just do was tray flips or 360 flips. Like that was probably my favorite one to just do. I was like obsessed with them. I could do like 19 in a row, or plus that was like one of my records when I was young. And that was like my like magic trick. Like I could land them every time pretty much. And then I like doing Impossible. I really liked Impossible, just the way it looked. What I was big into, because I like doing a lot of flatland stuff. Like we didn't have, like we had a vert ramp that my brother and my dad built. And I was like all right at that, but it scared the shit out of me. And it wasn't like a high quality one. It was just like what they built. So it never got like weatherproofed, and we never got masonite for it. It was basically just a like plywood that was molded over, you know, like you hang it over your fence and it bends over time. And then you can piece it together. We had that. But Yeah, that was kind of scary for me. So I was more of a flatland person generally. So I always was like into the technical tricks. So I could do like shove it late heels, and same thing with like late flips and kick flip under flips and all those sort of things, like Casper flips and that sort of stuff. Is that a shove it? No. I could do nollie impossibles. I always like that because that just looks cool. It's easier to do for me than impossibles because you get that forward momentum, so you can get like the board to flip up, wrap around your foot, and then land on it. Legit injuries on boards are rough. You guys learned to ragdoll. I mean, ragdoll, I feel like that's a wild way to land. But when we jumped like sets, like when I was young, like I was so into, I wanted to be a stuntman. Like I've talked about this before. I wanted to be a stuntman when I was little. So I learned how to fall, how to roll out of everything. So, oh, Kim, you landed a shove it. So I never really got hurt. My knees never got destroyed. But I just practiced constantly. I really liked it a lot. I can still, if you give me like an afternoon, I can still do like the late flip stuff and that sort of thing. But I need a little bit of time, and I'm not in the best shape right now. So when I do get on the board, like I'd have no problem with like balance, but when it comes to like technical stuff, I'm so rusty. I need a little bit of time. 360 flips, I can still do. I can do easy stuff right now, like any sort of varial flip is like pretty easy. I don't have to think about it. But if I'm trying to do like late flips and stuff, I need time. Because I try and show our kids this stuff, and then I'm just like, I don't want to look like just like, hey, I know how to do all this stuff, and just be like, oh shit, no, I don't. I was curious how you approach your concepting for comics. Is it different from concepts where the design itself is the final product? Yeah, concepting for comics can be different. Like with this one, I didn't really do too much of like a difference between like how my normal concepts would go and how my comic concepts are. But for something like Steve Lichman, where I know I'm going to be drawing the characters like a million times and it's less about the art and more about the joke, those characters are very simple. So I designed them to be simple, where they can work in like animation or comics, where it's just a design that's made to be drawn over and over again without a million little details. Because the more you add to a character's design, you know, little knickknacks and things, you're just kind of inviting yourself to a pain having to redraw that over and over. Like when I did the comic for Destiny, that Cade 6 comic, those are characters that were not designed for a comic. So just drawing like all of those intricate like robot faces over and over again, it's pretty time intensive. So if you're concepting for comics, you kind of want to concept like in terms of simplicity, but still reading very cool. Like a lot of like X-Men designs are a pretty good example of that, where they're kind of a mix of the two. They're very cool looking, but they're also pretty simple. Couple colors, easy read on the page, which that's kind of a universal, whether it's comics or games or animation. The character being identifiable against the rest of the roster of characters is very important. So having like a character lineup where you can see how they're all going to look together is important. Making sure that they're different enough. First time on a skateboard, I decided I was Marty McFly. Grabbed a tailgate, dude slammed on the brakes, and I flew into the bed of his truck. And that was the end of skateboarding for me. Oh man, I had like one of the, like, just, it must have looked very, very movie-like, but I did not intend for this. I was out in Boston just skateboarding around, like listening to music on my headphones, and there was some delivery truck, some like a Mack truck that was going to the grocery store, and I think they were just leaving, and I grabbed onto the back of it, and that's called skitching. So I was skitching on the back of this truck, and for like a while, like I took them like around a couple of roads and down a side road, and then I like just happened to do that right past all of my friends who happened to be out skateboarding. And then I let go and like ollied on the curb and turned around to see them. And I was just like, man, I feel like I'm a character in a movie right now. I was just like in my head, I was like, that was so awesome. Like, what are the odds? Now they just think like, man, this guy does this all the time. This brush is built into Krita. Sketching chrome brush. Yeah, I did go from sketching to sketching. No, I was doing that stuff while I was working. That wasn't that long ago. I mean, it was long ago, but it wasn't. In terms of my career, it wasn't that long ago. But I would say about what was it? I don't know, maybe like a decade ago, just while I was living in Boston, I would skateboard after work pretty much every day for like a couple hours. What are you thinking the next challenge will be? That was the one where we're going to, like, as a community, design a game. And I'm going to show in real time how you put it together. In terms of at least concept design. Did I ever try one of those electric longboards? No. Really trying to make this work, because I'm not crazy about the initial sketch for this particular pose. Did I ever watch Rocket Power? Yeah, I watched that. My big, like, skateboarding influence back when I first started was the same as pretty much everybody from that era. It was like, initially it was Tony Hawk Pro Skater, and then from there it was CKY 2K, and then all of, like, the Zero skateboard videos, and Girl, and yeah, there was a bunch of those. Day One Song versus Rodney Mullen, that whole thing back in the day. Used to watch all of those, and then me and my friends would watch those before we went out skateboarding to get pumped up, and then we'd go to the skate park. Do you have advice for designing characters? For instance, do you design the full body all at once, or would you design parts first, then pull it all together? Right now, it depends on, like, where my inspiration is coming from, I guess, but generally speaking, I tend to draw my characters' faces first, which, I don't know, maybe that's weird, but I feel like I need to see their personality in their face before I can commit to designing a whole character. Because if I can't see the character that I'm thinking about, like, right in their expression in their face, then I really don't feel the need to design them out, like, any further. Like, I need to see, it needs to be a character that looks cool just in a portrait shot. And if they look cool there, then I'll design the rest of their body. That's not, like, the ideal way to design characters. But for me, that's just kind of how I think about them. And then I go from there. I don't have a ton of tips on what to do with these brushes to get them to work the way that I have it set up. I don't think my settings are tweaked for like pressure sensitivity or anything. I just work, like, it was weird for me in the beginning too. Like the lines were too thick or way too expressive, and it just took like a long time for me to get used to it. Hi, Dave Raposa. Heard you many times talking about being 1% of artists and there's not much competition. What would one need to become the 1% class, skill business wise? Could you please give advice? I don't think I've ever said I'm in the 1% of artists. If I've ever said that, it was a joke. What I've said before that maybe you're thinking of is that that I'm the best there ever was, and there will never be anybody like me again. No, that's not what I said. I'm joking. I've said that if you aim for the middle of like anything, if you shoot for this low-hanging fruit, then you're going to have the most competition, because that's where most people aim for. They don't associate themselves with something greater than that. So then they end up having a much harder time in work because they don't shoot for high highs, which I think is the case with all things. It's like there's way more competition for everything in the middle. So it's best to shoot for something that feels unattainable. And I'm not saying that you get there, but you'll at least get closer than if you don't do that and you let yourself settle for less. I don't know how to get you into that mindset. You just have to believe that it's possible because other people have done it. And if you believe that there aren't people in the world who are just inherently better than you, and that everybody's generally the same, and if you treat every one of the uncomfortable moments where you want to give up, if you treat each one of those moments like you're facing a challenge that every single great person has ever faced, and you go, okay, this is where somebody who's not that person would have just stopped and given up because it's a little too hard. Like if you just keep working through those uncomfortable feelings, then eventually you'll be up there. But it's not easy in any way, you know, in any job that you do. And then, you know, there's nobody really doing that. There's nobody really pushing through all those uncomfortable moments or putting themselves in a crazy place where they're their own boss that's making themselves work way too much. But if you're one of those people that's like a little bit obsessed with what they do and that's what you want to do with your life and it makes you happy, then you can do it. But almost everybody fails because they don't do it. And I've seen so many artists who I started out with early on who are now hugely successful, and I've seen a ton of people just vanish. Your first challenge inspired me to do a poster a month, and I finished a Halo-inspired one this month. I did the Doom one the month before. This March is Mortal Kombat, 30-ish characters. Hey, great. What's your general opinion on using gradient maps for pieces? I've been fiddling with them for a bit, and I think they're pretty neat, but I'm curious to hear what someone with a lot of experience has to say about them. I like them, especially for like a job that's has a really quick turnaround. I think they can be very helpful. You just want to make sure that you still understand color and light and all that sort of thing, and that you can do it without a gradient map. I think it's a good skill to have, to just know inherently like what colors work well together and be able to paint using color. You don't have to, but it's just a nice thing to be able to do. So if you ever feel like something's becoming a vice or making you a little lazier in some respects, then I think that's always worth kind of keeping an eye on to make sure that you're not getting rusty in certain areas or relying too much on a tool. Hey Dave, kind of burning out making a deadline for a comic. Labor-intensive shots, rendering values. Any tips for simplifying style without feeling like you're losing the impact of your art? I guess it would depend on exactly what you have to work with. But honestly, with that sort of thing, I feel like the way that I've gotten around it is just experience. It's like doing something a lot, like over and over again, and having my mind like oriented to that of like, how can I simplify this without losing anything? Like for me, if you look at what's on the screen right here, this is me doing that right now, where like this brush allows me to kind of paint a little bit and get the ink look that I get with a lot of my more traditional inks, which is something I've kind of always been after. So I'm not really like overdoing anything because so much of this is implied. So I needed to really like find an inking brush that could imply things without me having to literally draw every single piece. So that's what this is. And I had always been looking for things like that. Like I've been making like inking brushes and whatnot in Photoshop to try and replicate some sort of natural ink feel, some texture there, so that I didn't need to draw every single thing. Because if I zoom in on this right now, like it looks relatively messy. Like the values are there, so it reads, but it's not super detailed. Like it is and it isn't at the same time. So it's kind of just about like analyzing your process and thinking like, what am I trying to get across? Do I want my stuff to look like a render inside the comic? Well, then that's going to take a different approach. So I feel like it just is very, issue to issue sort of deal. I don't know exactly what you're after. I didn't get to include this last part of what I was saying, but on your Gumroad or past work, do you have something that really pushed you past a limit for a lot of characters? Also, I really like how you sketched out people on a crit. Do you have a second to show how you sketch human form? If not, that is perfectly fine. I know you're working hard on the comic. Yeah, I mean, usually I sketch out a lot of these things in Photoshop. So I'm not going to do that right now, just because I'm in the middle of this one, but I mean, it's nothing too crazy. It's mostly basic shapes and then gestures, but I wouldn't say I'm like amazing at it. I'm all right. I'm no Kim Jong-ji. Kim Jong-gi. Rest in peace. Is Dan still planning on streaming? Good question. Hey Dave, I joined your Patreon last week. It's been great going through your basics and having your insight. Thanks for doing these videos. Well, of course. Thank you for being a patron and supporting. I couldn't do any of the things that I'm doing without the support, so I appreciate it. And if anybody wants to support, it's just $5 a month. Literally hundreds of hours of videos and high-res images and discounted prints and all that sort of thing is on the Patreon. And if you're a young person who doesn't have a lot of money and you're into it, I would suggest just getting it for the $5 and then just kind of like saving all the stuff and then leaving after a month or whatever. Just treat me like a public library. You know what I mean? I just need a little bit of a donation to keep running. And for everybody else who wants to continually help me make these streams and make comics and things, then I appreciate the support. Are there art tutorials? Yeah, there's almost too many art tutorials on there. I say too many because it's like years worth of art tutorials, so the whole like style and everything changes as the years go by on the Patreon. So you can go like far enough back in there and then just be like, oh, is this your current process? It's like, absolutely not. Have you hung out with Andy Brass? No, I don't know who that is. I'm not like a huge comics person. I don't know a ton of names. This is just, I'm more of like, I come from games and like entertainment art, illustration. That's most of my career. Oh, this is like those cringy TikTok compilation songs where it's like Darth Vader having deep inner thoughts. Those are so fucking lame. You ever see those? You were the chosen one! And it's just a compilation of Anakin Skywalker being handsome, walking in slow motion. Like, who the fuck makes these? Unironically, what song is this? I'll send you the playlist. I'll just drop it in the chat. It's this playlist. If you think this brush is cool like this, you should see it when I render paintings with it. It looks nuts. Do I do critiques? Uh, kind of. I do critiques on like challenge entries. I was doing like paint overs for that stuff. This is just a TikTok playlist. If you're a beginner artist and you're like, how do you have the time to study? Figure out how much time a day you spend on like social media, whether it's TikTok or any other apps, and then stop doing that and then fill that time with studying, and you'll experience a miracle. When I started out, that was like one of the biggest things I had to change, was just, how am I wasting time and trying to legitimize it to myself? Oh, and then I stopped doing all those things. So like for a long time, I didn't play video games, and I thought like I would miss that, but then I just didn't. I just found enjoyment in my work and things I really wanted to do with my time. And now I'll like indulge, you know, here and there. But I also feel good about my output of work. But in those moments where you feel kind of desperate to figure out like, how am I going to make a living at this? And it's very hard to logically have it make sense that you spend time on these like, you know, slot machine apps that are just hijacking the part of your mind that turns you into a gambling addict. Like, it's brutal. But anyway, if you do spend your time doing that stuff, I promise you, you have enough time to study. And you could be doing these life-changing leaps in your work. where can you find my challenges? They're part of the Patreon on the Discord. And on the Discord, we have a sketchbook section now, which is really cool, where you can just post up your daily studies or daily sketch work or whatever, and just start building up that side of the community, which I find very vital, like watching growth in that way. And each person has their own dedicated sketchbook section, and you could just kind of look at their post as if it's in like a forum. When is the next process video, like the Kirby and Knuckles one? I'll probably take that on relatively soon. I gotta see kind of how my schedule lines up for something like that, but yeah, it's not too far away. I do have a ton of new stuff to say in a tutorial. You feel like I'm doing the TikTok motivational shorts? You know, you could do anything you want. If you just sit down and dedicate yourself to a lifetime of just eating fruit, jacking off, and just trying not to think of your parents every day, then you'll go places that you never even imagined. You can't even fucking believe it. And I swear to God, all these people are low-T pussies. They gotta figure it out. I could be a motivational speaker. I could just riff. Just give me a stupid headset. Give me one of those Backstreet Boys old school dance headsets, and I'll get on stage and I'll just riff. I could do that for like 2 hours. You'd leave completely satisfied. I should educate people on how to get out of the Matrix. Absolutely, I could do that all day. I just need to get in like incredible shape. If I can get in incredible shape, I'll make you believe anything. Like, holy shit, he must know something I don't know. Yeah, I do. And you only have to join the Mile High Ballers Club. The 1%ers. If you join that and you give me money every month to figure this shit out, soon you'll have your own yacht jet. takes off right from the ocean way up into space. And you can have a chimp sucking you off. We have a fleet of chimps on the yacht jet. Just prostitute chimps. Have you met any of your art heroes, and was it a good experience? I met a ton of them. Yeah, usually. I don't really have a ton of negative experience. That's rarer to me. I think artists, at least in like illustration, they're not as egotistical as some other fields, so I haven't had any poor experiences in that regard. You get that more from like TV and movies and that sort of thing. I've had a little bit of that where it's just kind of like, ooh. But nothing extreme. At least no like heroes. I haven't really met any heroes from that world. But I would say like more so than art, that's where I'd like meet people that were douchier. But I feel like that's everybody's experience. I don't think I'm saying anything groundbreaking. Digital art compared to physical, what do I think? I don't know. I mean, that's like a topic as old as me. I don't really care. You can sell a painting for infinitely more. If you're trying to get the most bang for your buck. Like if you're working in comics and you're somebody like Marvel or whatever, then you should be doing a mixture of the two at least, just so that you can sell originals. I need to get, you're right about these TikTok motivational videos. We need to somehow get to a point where I can be in front of a crowd for some reason with a headset on and I can say, have you ever seen a chimp get hard from sucking your dick? Walk with me. And then it'll cut to me walking in slow motion and a bunch of different scenarios with this music playing. And I'll be like putting on sunglasses and stuff and drinking champagne. It would work so well. Could I draw my favorite anime nose? Absolutely. This right here. Boom, anime nose, done. It's too bad that would work if I made that stupid chimp video. I have no doubt in my mind. And then like the movie about that would be that it started as a joke. Then you flash forward like 10 years later and it's me on a yacht jet getting my dick sucked by a chimp. Just weeping, looking outside, just like, how the fuck did I end up here? I became the thing I hated most. I gotta get my life together. I don't even know these people. Chimpin' ain't easy. That'd be the name of my book. And then once I was brave enough to leave that life behind, I just have like a Mike Tyson style series of videos of me crying in interviews about the monster I became. I'm probably gonna call it here in a minute, because the next thing I'd have to do is this big old illustration of this lady, which I'm glad I got the figure right, because I feel like that's gonna look cool now, especially with the lighting underlit with him glowing and stuff flying off him. I'm excited for that. But yeah, as always, if you want to help support the channel here, you want to help support this comic and get a bunch of stuff too, you can go in the link below to my Patreon. It's $5 a month. Grab everything after you grab everything after you sign up and then just vanish. Poof. It's fine. In the future, well, actually, right now, I got a interview up that you should check out. I'll drop it. I'll drop it in the chat. Anthony Ezekwa. This is for anybody who's ever wondered how to make it in a place that they feel like is far from the industry they want to work in. Artist from Nigeria who still made it without having any payment platforms and all that. Is the Discord access predicated the continuation of the monthly Patreon fee? I believe so. I think so. I don't know. But yeah, I'm gonna try and do more interviews, mostly pertaining to frequently asked questions that I feel like there's somebody better than me that could address them. So that'll be outside of this streaming thing that I'm doing with the comic. That'll be the other kinds of content I'm putting out soonish. The next person I'm hoping to get on is like an art director to speak on a lot of the things that I get asked on here. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. You got a decent amount of work done. Almost the whole page. Just have to do that lady. I'm sticking to my schedule, which I'm happy with, because I kept saying, like, the thing I had in my head was that I wanted each one of these pages to take me around 4 hours. And I'm very close to that. So I'm feeling good, because normally comics would take me forever. And the fact that this is flying along as quick as it is a big relief. That means that I'll be able to do the full Starvale comic without killing myself, which I'm happy about. So, as always, thanks for hanging. I hope that you're all well. And I will talk to you next Thursday. I'll put up the live link to this right after I exit the stream. So you can just follow that and, yeah, get updates when I go live. Every Thursday at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I don't know what that is, GMT. You do the math. All right. Later, everybody.